Hi, Annie Briard here, checking in from my studio in Vancouver. So what I was doing before all of this kind of went down was preparing for a couple of exhibitions. One of them is the work that I'm kind of just playing around with on the wall today for a show called All the Light You Cannot See that is going to be presented at Capture Photography Festival, but now of course is going to be taking place a little bit more half virtually and the other half more kind of as public art as opposed to within a gallery because of course of the restriction on public gatherings. So this project was created really thinking about the environment and how we perceive it and how we take it for granted, and a lot of the shifts that are also happening there. And that's been coming from just general, preoccupations with the environment, which to me is in direct correlation with what's happening now with the coronavirus. It's almost like nature's wake-up call to say, hey, your presence and the way that you're sort of existing right now is not super sustainable. And so this project kind of responds to that. It's called Impossible Lands, and what I did is I sourced from my father's vast collection of slides, landscape slides from back when he was, I guess, in his early 20s, touring kind of Canada and out west when he was working on the railway. And for myself, I've been engaging in a lot of really long haul backpacking treks. So like 3-week-long trips, sort of living out in nature here in BC, but also a lot in California. And part of what is so sort of shocking or difficult is that every time that I go back and revisit some of these landscapes that I've been in before, the climate is drier, or the atmosphere is very much affected by the pollution, or in the case of our recent fires, by that. And so these kind of constantly shifting landscapes and situations in which we find ourselves and that we have a role to play in, and yet we don't really know what the outcome is there or what could happen. And so this series plays with that by basically I sort of perform a little slideshow in my studio where I use 3 different analog slide projectors, and I mix some of these old slides from my father's collection and some of my own that I've taken during these more recent backpacking trips. And then as the slides kind of, as the carousel sort of circles around, these completely different sort of juxtapositions of images start happening. And that's what you can kind of see on some of these images in the studio today, is that it creates these possible landscapes of maybe absolute desert environment where a river used to be, or mixing the Rockies with something a little bit more tropical and from a warmer climate. We're going to be presenting them as prints, but also as these kind of very, very large. For me, it's definitely been a bit of a shift, kind of going from lots of deadlines in the studio to suddenly things being quite a bit more wide open, and also teaching a lot at Emily Carr University, and now all of that has kind of been moved online, so everything's a little bit scattered. And so what I've been doing to kind of remediate that is spending much more time, giving myself much more time for reflection and contemplation. And this is something that art offers us. Art has always been, the light at the end of the tunnel, or the light in the dark, that would allow us to maybe see things differently, or see another reality or another possibility. And yet in the kind of capitalist economy that we've been finding ourselves in, it's so much more about just running, and progress at all costs, and constantly moving and producing. And so you know, for me, part of it has been that kind of slowing down, having more time to read, to look at images, to think, to daydream, and I hope that you're having some time to do that as well. The more that we can reflect on the situation and on our reality, the more that I think we can come together as a global community and maybe shape things for the better.